Welcome to the deep dive with Farmtips Diary. What happens when planting becomes a gamble and harvesting feels like a loss? In today's episode, we take a closer look at how inflation is not just raising prices, but reshaping the entire crop cycle, from when and how farmers plant to the ways they move and store their harvests. Whether you're a grower, an agriculture professional, or simply wondering why food prices won't stop climbing, this deep dive is for you. Before we begin, be sure to like this video, drop a comment on how your farm is coping, and subscribe to Farmtips Diary for weekly breakdowns on the economics of agriculture. Let's get started. Let's begin with timing turmoil. One of the earliest and most destabilizing effects of inflation on crop cycles. They calculate when to buy seeds, when to fertilize, when to irrigate, and when to hire labor. These decisions rely heavily on cost estimates that used to stay relatively stable year to year. Normally, farmers plan the planting season months in advance. Many delay planting in hopes that input prices will drop. Others switch to lower input crops or reduce the acreage they plant altogether. Delayed planting leads to delayed harvesting, which means hitting the market when prices might no longer be favorable. In some cases, missing the optimal window, even by a week or two, can mean thousands in lost revenue. Over time, this depletes soil health and reduces future yield potential. Getting the crops from the field to storage or market has become one of the most expensive and difficult parts of the operation. Many farmers now face higher per-mile rates to move their goods, especially in rural areas where options are limited. Grain silos, refrigeration units, and ventilated storage all rely on electricity or diesel generators, both of which are now costlier to operate. Others store for longer than planned, hoping prices rebound, but this risks spoilage or quality degradation. Now, that's changed. Fuel prices have become wildly unpredictable. The cost of diesel, which powers everything from tractors to irrigation pumps, is up significantly in many parts of the world. Fertilizer, especially nitrogen-based ones, has also seen prices more than double in some regions since 2022, but when every input cost is volatile and every market price swings without warning, planning becomes a high-stakes guessing game. When these costs rise suddenly right before planting season, farmers are forced into tough decisions. Planning paralysis leads to missed opportunities and reactive farming, where choices are made out of survival, not strategy. Today, they come with higher risks and fewer guarantees. It's no longer just about growing the crops, it's about moving and storing them affordably. Logistics has become a pressure point that's quietly squeezing farmers' profit margins and disrupting delivery schedules. The result is an unpredictable planting calendar. This causes a ripple effect across the entire crop cycle. In many areas, fields that used to be planted are being left fallow. Some producers are switching to lower yield crops just to keep expenses manageable. This timing turmoil also affects crop rotation. When fertilizer is expensive, some farmers skip replenishing the soil with necessary nutrients, using less fertilizer, skipping pest control, reducing irrigation to save on fuel or electricity. This is especially dangerous when inflation is high and interest rates are rising along with it. Now, let's turn to logistics, phase of the cycle that has become increasingly strained under inflationary pressure. Even after a successful harvest, the job isn't over. Transportation costs have surged due to high fuel prices, driver shortages, and rising maintenance costs for trucks and trailers, consumers feel the pinch at the grocery store. Export commitments may not be met, and importing nations may scramble to secure alternative sources. Then there's the issue of storage. Energy prices have made cold storage and warehousing much more expensive. There are actionable strategies that farmers are using to adapt and build resilience into their operations. When staples become more expensive, consumer behavior changes, restaurants adjust their menus, households cut back on variety. Food manufacturers raise prices or shrink product sizes. Instead of relying on one supplier, farmers are negotiating with multiple vendors, pooling orders with other farms, or even turning to local cooperatives to secure better prices. It's a paradox that exposes the fragility of our modern food system. They're making data-driven decisions that optimize labor and logistics even when conditions are uncertain. Some farmers are forced to sell immediately after harvest to avoid paying storage fees, even if the market price is low. Rather than putting everything into one or two crops, more farms are experimenting with secondary crops, cover crops, or niche produce that command premium pricing. What we're seeing is a shift in the bottleneck. From WhatsApp groups to digital forums, growers are exchanging tips on financing, contract negotiation, and low-cost innovation that are making a real difference. Let's now explore planning paralysis, the psychological and operational burden that inflation has placed on farmers. Farming has always been a business of forecasts and preparation. Those who can stay flexible, informed, and connected are better positioned to adapt. Should you buy fertilizer now or wait and hope it drops? Should you commit to a crop that uses more water but earns more at market, or stick with something safer but less profitable? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. See you again on our next deep dive. Should you lease machinery this year or stretch out the old equipment for one more season? These questions used to have clearer answers. Many farmers are freezing up, unable or unwilling to commit capital, fearing that one wrong call could turn a profit year into a debt spiral. Over time, this uncertainty erodes confidence in long-term investment, making it harder to scale, experiment, or innovate, and the consequences are visible in the next topic, a shrink in output. Faced with rising costs and unstable pricing, farmers are cutting back, others are cutting corners, and some are doing the unthinkable, taking on risky debt just to fund the season. The result is reduced yields, more variability in harvest quality, and ultimately a smaller supply entering the market. And this doesn't just affect one farm, it affects the entire food system. Less supply puts upward pressure on food prices. This brings us to the bigger picture. Inflation-driven disruption in crop cycles doesn't stop at the farm gate. It affects supply chains, food security, and even geopolitical stability. When countries can't rely on consistent agricultural exports, trade tensions rise. This leads to inflation down the line in food packaging, distribution, and retail. So while farmers are producing less, everyone else is paying more, but it's not all bleak. One key tactic is dynamic input sourcing. Some are shifting to alternative fertilizers or adopting organic composting practices that reduce dependency on volatile chemical inputs. Another strategy is smart scheduling with the help of mobile apps, weather tracking tools, and market data platforms. Farmers are better timing their planting and harvesting windows. Crop diversification is also gaining momentum. And let's not forget community knowledge sharing. In times of volatility, farmer-to-farmer learning is powerful. The key takeaway here is that while inflation is disrupting the crop cycle, it's also accelerating a transformation in how farms operate. Farming has always been a mix of risk and reward. But in today's climate, resilience is the new currency. We hope this exploration has been valuable. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. See you again on our next deep dive.